everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to day 25 of my 25 Days of Craftmas series. Today I'm showing you how to make this adorable wooden Christmas sled. I just love how this sled turned out. It is definitely one of my favorite projects this year. It looks so cute sitting on my front porch. This project isn't hard, but it does take some time to make. It requires just a few simple cuts of wood, so even a beginner woodworker can do it. Now let's go take a look at the supply list and get started. For this project, you'll need 4 21-inch pieces of wood cut from a 1x4, and 2 of those need to be cut at a 45-degree angle. You'll need 1 14-inch piece cut from a 1x4, 2 30-inch pieces cut from a 1x2, and 2 11-inch pieces cut from a 1x2. You'll need some adhesive vinyl, and the color doesn't matter, transfer tape, a weeding tool and scraper, paint and brushes, a clear protective finish is optional, Christmas embellishments, rope, wood glue, a brad nailer, and of course your Cricut, a cutting mat, and the cut file. So grab your supplies and head over to your computer. The first thing we need to do is grab the SVG file we'll be using for this project. You can get it for free on my blog at burtonavenue.com. I keep all the SVG files for the projects I make and share in my free SVG library. These files will work with all kinds of cutting machines and they're free to everyone. Once you're on my site, just go to Free SVG Files and then Free SVG Library. You will need a password to get into the library, and there are instructions on the screen if you need to get one. For this project, we're going to be using the cut file called the North Pole Sled Company, BA2125. To find it, just use your browser search and enter 2125. Once you found the file, go ahead and click on that link, and the files will be downloaded onto your computer. Now I'm going to show you how to set up and cut this design in Cricut Design Space. If you're not sure how to unzip and import designs into Cricut Design Space, be sure to check out my step-by-step tutorial. So this is what the design will look like when you first import it onto your Canvas screen. So now we need to resize it so that it will work with our project. To do that, I am going to create a rectangle that is about the same size as the wooden sled that we're going to make. And then I can resize the design so it looks good on that rectangle. So I'm going to click on Shapes, and then I'm going to choose the square. And then I'm going to go up here and unlock the padlock and put in the dimensions of my sled. And it's going to end up being about 14 inches wide and about 21 inches tall. I'm going to click on Arrange and choose Send to Back, and also change the color of the rectangle to white. And then I'm going to click on this minus sign to shrink the view so I can see everything a little bit better. Now I am going to be putting a big bow and some Christmas embellishments up here, so I don't want the design up towards the top. So I'm going to center it between about this point and the bottom. And then you can just drag on these arrows and resize everything until it looks good. So the size of the design is almost 11.5 inches tall and just over 10 inches wide. Normally, to create a stencil, I would just attach my design to the rectangle around it. But because the Cricut will only cut 11.5 inches wide or 11.5 inches tall on a regular sheet of vinyl, I can't do that with this project because it's way too big. So what I'm going to do is use a 12-inch sheet of vinyl and just use the edges of the sheet to create the outline of my stencil. And I'll just show you really quick what I mean. I'm going to delete this rectangle, and then I'm going to create a square that is 12 inches. So this outline is the same size as my sheet of vinyl. And when I cut out the design, it's going to look like this on my piece of vinyl. And so then I can just pull out the letters and the shape, and I will be left with a stencil. And you'll see more what I mean as we get going. So I'm going to delete this square, and then I'm going to select everything on the screen and right click and choose Attach. And that is all that we need to do on this Canvas screen. So now you can click on the green Make It button, and then you'll be taken to this screen. And this is just going to show us what the design is going to look like on our cutting mat. Now remember that you are going to need to use a sheet of vinyl that is 12 inches across and 12 inches tall. If everything looks good on this screen, you can click on the green Continue button. Once Design Space finds your Cricut, you'll be taken to this screen. Make sure your dial is set to vinyl, and then you can go load your cutting mat. So place your piece of 12-inch vinyl on your cutting mat and smooth it down. Load it into your Cricut by pressing the up and down arrow button. When your Cricut is ready to cut, you'll see the C button light up. Press that and the machine will begin cutting. When everything has been cut, you can press the up and down arrow button again to unload your mat. Remove the vinyl from your cutting mat. Use your weeding tool to help you pull out the letters and shapes. Once you've pulled out all the pieces, you'll be left with a stencil. Next, place a piece of transfer tape sticky side up on your work surface, and then place the vinyl on top of that. Rub over everything firmly with your scraper, and then trim off the excess transfer tape. Next, we're going to work on painting our wood pieces. For this project, you'll need 4 21-inch pieces cut from a 1x4, which actually measures about 3.5 inches. You'll need to cut 2 at 45-degree angles, and those 4 pieces will make up your sled base. You'll need 1 14-inch piece also cut for a 1x4, and this is for the brace at the top. You'll need 2 11-inch pieces cut from a 1x2 for the back supports, and then 2 30-inch pieces also cut from a 1x2 for the skis. Start by painting the top brace and the pieces for the sled base red. You'll probably need to do 2 to 3 coats. Once those are dry, you can lightly sand all the edges to expose some of the raw wood. Then paint all the other pieces black. When the paint is dry, you can sand all the edges on those pieces too. Lay out the pieces of the sled base with the 2 angled pieces on the outside edges, and the 2 pieces with the straight cut should be in the middle. Add some glue onto the back supports and place them over all 4 pieces of the sled base. Use a brad nailer to nail them in place. Now we're going to stencil. Grab your vinyl stencil and pull off the vinyl backing. Position the design on the wood. I centered it from left to right and put it about 3 inches up from the bottom of the sled. Rub over the design with your scraper and then carefully pull off the transfer tape. And then rub over the designs a few more times with your scraper. Next, you'll want to paint over the stencil with a light coat of red paint. This should help prevent bleeding. Once the red paint is dry, you can fill in the stencil with your colored paints. You'll want to do a couple of light coats rather than one thick, heavy coat. When the paint is dry to the touch, you can carefully pull off the vinyl stencil. Use a weeding tool or craft knife to remove any vinyl pieces that were left behind. Once the paint is totally dry, you'll want to lightly sand over the entire design. Flip the sled over to the back side and add some glue onto the wood for the skis. Place them right up against the back supports. The skis should extend past the bottom of the sled base by about 1.5 inches. Use a brad nailer to attach the skis to the back supports. Flip the sled back to the front. Add some glue to the top support and place it about 1.5 inches down from the top of the skis. If you're worried about the sled being outside, you can also spray it with a clear protective finish. Next, you can glue on some Christmas embellishments to the top of the sled. I glued on a large bow made out of black and white checked ribbon and then glued some pine underneath it. I also glued on a couple of stems of red berries. After the glue on the brace has had some time to dry, you can tie some rope around both sides of the brace. You can also nail the brace onto the skis with a brad nailer, and then glue the rope over the nail holes to cover them up. And that is the last step. This project is finished. Don't you just love how it turned out? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell so you'll get notified each time I post something new.